I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our fifth family education night of the 25-26 school year. This is an event sponsored by Northstar's Career Center. My name is Russ Helm, and I am the new liaison for Northstar's Career Center, basically taking over for Kristen Parson. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce Holly Peel, who is the director of the Career Center at Northstar. She's also joining us tonight. Just a bit about Northstar's Career Center. Northstar's Career Center is dedicated to empowering teens and young adults with disabilities as they prepare for the workforce by fostering independence, confidence, and self-advocacy. Our five vocational areas include business technology, materials handling, construction, hospitality, and veterinary assisting. Prepared skilled employees for targeted growth sectors of the Central Virginia labor market. In short, we work with juniors, seniors, and young adults with disabilities to help them build career readiness skills they can use as they transition out of secondary education into the workforce. You can learn more about the different programs that we offer on the Career Center tab of Northstar's main website, which is northstarva.org, or you can reach out to us directly via email. We'll post that contact information into the chat as we move forward. Tonight, we will be joined by two guest speakers, both of whom have generously donated their time and expertise. First, we will hear from Michele Elliot, who is the program coordinator for the Supports Coordination Services with Hanover Community Services. And following Michele's presentation, we will hear from Kelsey Calder, who is the travel trainer with GRTC. For anybody not local to Richmond, GRTC is our local bus line. Kelsey is a nationally certified travel training instructor who provides travel training to seniors and people with disabilities. She'll be speaking about the services that GRTC offer, including how to request and participate in travel training. Before we start, please remember that you are welcome to enter any questions or comments that you have into the chat. There'll also be more opportunity to ask more personal questions at the end of tonight's presentations once we've stopped the recording. All right, well, we have a full and exciting night ahead of us. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Michele, and the rest of us are going to turn off our cameras. Enjoy.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to this. I'm very happy to be here with everybody to discuss what a developmental disabilities waiver is and how that can help individuals with disabilities live a fuller life and possibly live independently using these supports. So I have a lot of information. I'll try to make it simple because these are a lot of regulations revolving around the DD waiver is what we call it, Developmental Disabilities Waiver. I'm with Hanover Community Services Board, but these waivers are throughout the state. It's not just for Hanover. Whatever area you are in, if you go to your community services board, they will help you get on the waiver wait list and possibly with getting a waiver set up and then getting those supports set up. So first off, you may be wondering, what exactly is a waiver? So what a waiver is, it is one of two over the umbrella, it's under the umbrella of home and community-based waivers. These are federal programs through Medicaid. So an individual has to meet Medicaid eligibility, and it waives institutional care. So back in the day, years and years ago, people were placed in facilities throughout Virginia to get services, supports, to learn skills so that one day they could move out of those facilities and on in their own apartments or in the community with supports. So a waiver does two things. It waives the institutional care and puts that money through Medicaid and those supports into the community. It also waives the family income for a family whose individual who has a developmental disability qualifies for that waiver under the age of 18. So children who qualify for a developmental disabilities waiver who are under the age of 18, it waives the family income so that that individual can meet the Medicaid eligibility, because Medicaid is a resource-based program. Once the individual turns 18, then they have to apply for Medicaid on their own. It does not take into account the family income. So through the waiver, it's broken into 3 different packages, and that's community living, family and individual supports, and building independence. And we'll go further into these. We'll go in depth into these services and what they are. The other, as I mentioned before, there are 2 home and community-based waivers. This is one of them. The other one is called the CCC Plus waiver, which is Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus waiver. Commonwealth Coordinated Care, you may know, is the MCO for Medicaid. What that does, it waives a nursing facility. So the CCC Plus waiver, or the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus waiver, is waiving a nursing facility. That waiver is for individuals who have medical needs. Could be somebody with a developmental disability. It could be somebody who doesn't have a developmental disability, but they do need nursing home or based care. Next, we will go through what does the developmental disabilities waiver help with? This is a range of programs that help individuals learn skills to be able to be as independent as possible in the community. It gives access throughout the lifespan. We have individuals that are children, as well as individuals who are adults, to receive these skill-based services. As children, they receive the services in the home, in the community. As adults, they can receive services as well as in the home, in their own home, in their family home, out in the community. It does assist with employment services. It does assist with transportation, as well as day programs, continuing skill building in the community once somebody is out of school. To meet the eligibility, so when an individual comes through the Community Services Board, like I said, it's Hanover or Henrico or Chesterfield, any of the Community Services Board, to be determined if they meet eligibility for a waiver, they must meet the diagnostic, the functional, and the financial eligibility. They have to agree that if offered a waiver service, that they would use the service within 30 days. There is a large wait list for these services, but we have seen times when people come in and they get on the waiver wait list, and within, a couple of months, they are being reviewed for a waiver to receive a waiver. So we really want to make sure that individuals are ready to get these services when they're being screened for them. The diagnostic eligibility includes possibly a psychological or some type of evaluation that shows that the individual has a severe chronic disability, that they have a developmental disability or an intellectual disability, that it's attributable to a mental or physical impairment or combination of both, but not just mental illness. They have to have some type of developmental disability. It manifests before the age of 22. We have had individuals that have come into our services who apply for the waiver, who do meet the diagnostic eligibility, but they are very capable and they don't meet the functional limitations. An individual must meet functional limitations in 3 or more areas, such as self-care, communication, learning, mobility, self-direction, all of those types of activities of daily living. And like I said, they have to have a limitation in at least 3 of those areas to meet the diagnostic criteria. We will complete what is called a Virginia Individual Developmental Disabilities Eligibility Survey, which we call it the VIDES. You may have heard of the VIDES. That is completed when somebody is screened for the waiver, and then also completed yearly once somebody has the waiver. This is the functional survey that an individual meets to meet that institutional care level. So we go through it with an individual. We look at the types of supports they need in various areas, such as health. Do they take medication? Can they take it on their own? Do they understand when their medication may not be working or when they're having side effects? To everything from communication, how they communicate to others, community living skills, what types of supports they need out in the community, self-direction, all of those things. Is like 8 different areas, and we review all of that and the supports the person needs. An infant and child must meet at least 2 areas, and as adults, they must meet at least 3 areas. And like I said, once an individual receives a waiver, they do have to have a VIDES completed every year. Financially, because this is a Medicaid program, as I said earlier, children up to the age of 18, the parent resources are waived. The child cannot have more than $2,000 in resources, like through an inheritance, a trust, or anything like that. We can help people get trust set up, like a special needs trust set up, so that they don't look at that through Medicaid. Adults over the age of 18 must meet the financial guidelines and meet the Medicaid eligibility. They may have what's called a patient pay, but that is determined through social services. So coming into the front door of a community services board, meeting with the developmental disabilities team, getting yourself on the waiver wait list, going through the VIDES and all of that. You do not need to have Medicaid to be on the wait list. You don't need to apply for Medicaid until you receive a waiver. So we have several people that get on the waiver wait list who you don't even have to worry about meeting Medicaid eligibility yet. The waivers come through the General Assembly every year. It's part of the state budget. In 25 and 26, there were 1,720 statewide slots allocated each year. We have not yet heard what this current budget is going to have, but we do believe that we will get close to that amount again. And they are allocated each year and distributed quarterly. So there is a committee, a state level committee that meets quarterly to determine who on the wait list receives the waivers. The other way individuals receive waivers is if we have someone that passes away and we can move that waiver to someone else. If somebody moves out of state, the waiver does not follow. If you live out of state and you're listening to this or looking at this on YouTube, this is only for Virginia, but there are waivers in every state for the people with developmental disabilities. You would just need to contact your state's developmental disabilities or disabilities agency to figure out how to get screened for that waiver. What I'm talking about tonight is the process for Virginia. All right, so there are 3 types or packages under the waiver: the DD waiver, the developmental disabilities waiver. Like I said before, building independence, family and individual, and community living. When you receive a waiver, you usually receive it from the state, and that is a family and individual waiver or community living waiver. Individuals that are on the wait list can apply for building independence waiver if they are 18 and over, they're looking to live independently in the community, they own lease or control their own living arrangements. They can't live with parents. They could have a housing voucher or what's called an SRAP, which is a state rental assistance program that helps with rent. And they there's not a whole lot of supports under this waiver package, so the individual must be able to be pretty independent with very little supports. But this is a waiver that an individual does not have to wait to be allocated a waiver. We can apply for this anytime. The individual's ready to move out on their own and needs some supports. The waivers that do get allocated from the state, one of the packages is called the Family and Individual Support Waiver. We call that the FIS waiver. Some people have heard that. This is a waiver that is available to children and adults. The individual can be living with family. They can be living on their own. It includes support for those with some medical and behavioral needs, and it includes more supports than in the building independence waiver. So it includes things like a day support program, paying for a day support program that takes the waiver, paying for a group home out in the community, paying for in-home supports if you were living on your own and you need supports to come in to help you with cooking dinner or doing some chores around the house or helping you learn how to budget. It will help with those supports coming into the home. With the building independence waiver, that gives up to a certain amount of hours a month. The family and individual support waiver gives you a little bit more of those supports in the home than the building independence waiver. This waiver does not include what is called congregate group home living. That is a 24-hour home where staff are there 24 hours with individuals living in the home. What this waiver will assist with are apartment living where staff are on site. In case something happens, they are accessible to the individual. They are helping throughout the day with that individual, but there's no one in the home 24 hours. The individual has their own apartment and staff are coming in. That is called supported residential services. We'll talk a little bit more about those residential services in just a minute. Community living waiver. This is another waiver that is allocated through the state. This is like the biggest package, the most expensive package. It includes all of the services, including group homes and what's called sponsored residential. Sponsored residential services are when family members may open their home. I may want to become a sponsored residential provider. I open my home, it becomes licensed through the state. I live there and I have up to two individuals with disabilities living with me, and I am their support. There are sponsors out there who do this. There are some family members who do this for others. And it's more of a living in a family environment rather than a group home. So once you're screened for the waiver, you are placed on the waiver wait list. And with 1,700 waivers coming out and split between 40 community services boards, you try to figure out, like, of all the people on the wait list, who's going to get that waiver, who's going to get that service. So the way the state has set it up is they've broken it into 3 different priorities of the waiver wait list. When you're being screened for the wait list, you are looked at as to what priority you fall under. Are you somebody that's priority 1 and you need a waiver service within the next year? You have immediate needs right now. You need to get out of the home, or you're leaving school and you have nowhere to go and you're going to need supports in the community, that type of thing. Priority 2 are for people who are kind of planning 1 to 5 years that they're going to be needing these supports. And priority 3 are those individuals that may be younger children whose families are kind of being proactive and they're like, we're going to get on the wait list because we don't really need it right now, but we will need it. And we do ask, though, remember when I said, hey, to get on the wait list, you have to say you're going to use that waiver within 30 days, because we have seen where the General Assembly has carved out waivers for individuals that have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So priority three, even if you're a priority three and say, we don't really need it now, we could use it in the future. But if you were offered a waiver, could the family use respite? Could the family use a little bit of support, something at least once every 30 days? And so then once the person is determined which priority level they are, the folks that are on priority one are the ones that will be considered for a waiver slot. They are screened yearly and updated with information. We ask that people on the wait list contact us if anything changes, because we do have several folks on the wait list and we're not always able to be in touch monthly or anything like that. We monitor folks that are on the wait list. Of the people that are priority one, we then keep whittling it down to of that priority one, who is in the most need. And there is something called a critical needs summary. And that will look at everybody on the wait list, on the priority one wait list, receives a critical needs summary where we look at things like how severe are their needs. Do they need more supports than others? Are there legal issues involved? Are there challenging behaviors involved? Are there medical needs involved? Are the family member who's the caregiver or the caregiver saying that they have medical needs and can no longer care for this person because of the severity of their medical needs? So depending on what's going on in that home, that critical needs summary and that score goes up. The high folks on the priority one list, the ones with the highest critical needs score, are the ones that are looked at for a waiver and are considered for the waiver. So the waiver allocation meeting is set. They received an assessment tool that we complete with families and individuals. It does not have anybody's name on it. It has a number that we can kind of cross-reference as to who that is. It's the committee. It's all done confidentially. So the committee reviews these assessment forms. They're called the slot allocation review form. And they determine then who of the top get the waivers. So in the next quarter, we have 15 waivers coming out in March for Hanover. We have to, that allocation committee looks at the top 30. So of those 30, who are the 15 that are going to get the waiver? And they make that determination. A little bit of additional information. The waiver type, the package that is given out is chosen by the committee and the state. So we have had individuals who say, you know, I don't want a FIS waiver or family individual waiver. I really want to be out in the community in a group home. I need to be in a group home and I only want that CL waiver. And you can say that. You don't have to take what's given to you by the state. Excuse me, if it's not going to provide the right supports. Excuse me. So, once the individual is offered that waiver, and then a family can decline it if they're not ready. And once the person is receiving the waiver, they have to continue to meet eligibility for it. So we complete that VIDES, that Virginia Developmental Disability Survey, every year. For Hanover, they get a case manager who we call an active case manager because they're going to be all involved in getting those services started, making referrals, coordinating the services, and making sure that the waiver stays in place. Not everyone who requests a DD waiver will be found eligible, because remember what I said, some people come in and they may not meet the functional level. for it. So that's okay. You can apply for the waiver wait list at any time. You can apply over and over and over. If support needs change, you can apply. There have been people on the waiver wait list that have been on it for many, many years. So just because you're on the wait list doesn't guarantee you're going to get a waiver in the next year. It just depends on who is in most need. There is other funding out there that the Community Services Board can assist you with for folks that are on the wait list. There is some funding out there called the Individual Family Support Program that folks can apply for if they're on the wait list, and it will only pay for a little bit of stuff. So looking at those residential supports a little bit more closely, if you're an individual who meets the waiver criteria and you receive a waiver, you're looking at transitioning out of school, you're coming out into the community, and one day you want to live on your own or get supports to learn to live on your own. If you, like I said, with the BI waiver, you can apply for that at any time you're on the waiver wait list. You have to be in an independent living program, or, being able to live on your own outside of your family home. It is skill building. It supports the individual in the community. There is a program under the BI waiver called the shared living. That is where an individual who is 18 living in an apartment with a roommate, and that roommate receives a stipend through Medicaid for a portion of their food, their rent, and their utilities in exchange for providing minimal supports to the individual with the waiver. And as you can see from the slide, the residential supports kind of build on each other as it gets through the waiver packages. So a FIS waiver, that family individual waiver, includes the shared living, and it also includes in-home support. So think about individuals who live with their families, children, teenagers, folks that are still in school that need a little bit of extra skill building to help them learn to live independently. You can have in-home supports where there is a staff person coming to the home to help you with outcomes, goals, things that you want to work on, cooking, cleaning, budgeting, things that will help you become independent. There's also the supported living program, which we talked about a little earlier, where an individual can move into their own apartment. There are programs out there that are located in apartment settings, and the staff are there and have access to the staff, but they're not there. They're not in the home with the individual. They are accessible, and that staff also helps with independent living skills throughout the day. The community living waiver has the shared living, has the in-home, has the supportive residential, and the community living waiver has the group home, where you have a group of folks living in one home with staff there 24/7 on site. And it also has that sponsored residential, where a family or an individual out in the community may open their own home to become a paid caregiver. Some options. Are you thinking, I'm going to want to live on my own someday, but rent can be expensive. So some options for housing supports include the housing choice vouchers, or what's called Section 8, or you may have heard it called VHDA vouchers. This helps pay for rent through a federal program. Because this is a federal program, you have to apply, you have to be found eligible. It is needs-based and resource-based program. There is a wait list for this program. Individuals can live with family using this voucher. There's also some apartments that are income-based apartments. They have carved out some of their apartments for low-income individuals so that you can afford to live there. There's also what we talked about earlier, the SRAP, the state rental assistance. It's also considered or some people call it a certificate. And that is a state-run program. So it's different from the housing choice vouchers, which is federal. If there's a federal shutdown, that affects your housing choice vouchers. If it's a state rental assistance program, it does not affect, a federal shutdown does not affect the state rental assistance program. Individuals can be on the waiver wait list to receive this. We've had individuals that were living at home and got on the waiver wait list and was ready to move out on their own and moved out using the state rental assistance program as they waited for the waiver, and their family members continued to support them in their own home. So putting it all together, so an individual can get the waiver. As an adult, they can live in their own apartment with supports coming in through the waiver, the in-home supports. They could have a voucher or an SRAP to help them pay for the rent. They could have where they live in a program called supported living, one of the apartments, where there's staff on site. Some of these programs require that the individual come with a voucher or with the state rental program payment, but a lot of them do not require that. So some individuals just move into an apartment through these programs, and what they're paying for is based on their current income. So Social Security, if they're bringing in Social Security income, the program is charging them for a room and board through their Social Security income. Usually it's about 80% of that. And then the waiver supports is paying for the staff to provide the skill building supports. And like I said, your CSB support coordinator will help you work in getting linked to these services, complete referrals, and assist with the intake. So that is all that I have. I am open to questions. If you have any questions now, or if you have questions later and want to call me, I can help you navigate through any of this information. It doesn't have to be that you live in Hanover. You have to live in Hanover to be on the Hanover waiver wait list. But if you're in Chesterfield and you just have some questions, feel free to contact me. Russ, is there any questions in the chat box or?
Was just checking. Thus far, we've resolved all that I see. Give folks a couple more seconds to pop some more in just in case.
All right. It's a lot of information, boiled down to 30 minutes. And I'm just focusing on residential supports tonight because I understand a lot of folks from Northstar are capable of one day living on their own and are doing that transition. But there are other supports under the waiver, like I said, in-home supports, there's assistive technologies, there's employment assistance, transportation through Medicaid to get to a waiver program. But I just wanted to focus on residential tonight.
It looks like we don't have any more questions in the chat. Where someone reached out to say thank you, and I wanted to reiterate thank you for spending your time with us this evening and exposing us to all this great information.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michele. That was phenomenal. It's a lot of dense information. Sometimes it makes my head hurt a little bit.
Yes.
Michele also worked with us to develop a kind of a synthesis of some of the things that she discussed. And I'm just going to share a piece from that now. Let's see. Can you see the residential options graph?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. I dropped a link to it in our website. If you're streaming this later, it's available. I'm sorry, I dropped a link to it in the chat. If you're streaming this later, it's available on the website. But very helpfully, she helped us see which waivers apply to which categories. So this was a great thumbnail sketch. Sometimes I glaze over a little bit when I hear people go to a deep dive. So thank you for all of the collaboration you provided, Michele, in creating this resource. It's a good place to start when you're trying to synthesize all that information.
And there is I didn't create that. I took that right from my community, my life, Virginia.org, which is a great website for folks to learn more about the waivers and what the waiver covers and all of that information. I just made it pretty. Or maybe you guys made it pretty. I think y'all made it pretty.
It wasn't me. I have a fabulous colleague who made it pretty. Yes, I think it's helpful to see that, because what we know is, it's a long and winding road, and what our students might be doing at 18 is different from what they'll be doing at 23 is different from what they'll be doing at 30 or 45. So knowing that there's, progression of services as we move through our lives and as our family's lifespan goes on is incredibly helpful.
Right. Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Michele. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat with us, and again, give us all this information to consider. I think what I will do now is hand this over to Kelsey, who is the travel trainer with GRTC. Kelsey, the floor is yours.
All right, hello everyone. All right, can everyone see that? Okay, so I am GRTC's travel training instructor. I have been with the program since it started, and that has been now over 10 years. In my previous life, I was a special ed teacher, and I am a nationally certified travel trainer. So in the 10 years, we have trained over 300 individuals in small groups. And if you get nothing else from this presentation, know that travel training is super flexible. And if you have any questions or like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, can you help me? I'm happy to accommodate. But as it was said earlier, GRTC is Richmond's public transportation. But the terminology and everything I'm using tonight could be transferred if you're in a different location. So the types of service that we offer, fixed route. So that's going to be like what you will think of when you think of public transportation. So your city buses. We number our buses. So you might see a 19, an 18, 7A, 7B. And then we also have express buses. We have a bus rapid transit line. So that is kind of mimics a metro and a subway, but by bus. So instead of bus stop poles where the fixed route stop would be, you're going to have a full-on shelter, brick and mortar, more permanent placement. Ours is called the Pulse. It runs from Willow Lawn to Rockets Landing. If you hear anything about bus rapid transit in the news, we are expanding our Pulse out to Parham, and we are making a north-south line, which will be awesome. We also have paratransit, so that is curb-to-curb service. There is an eligibility process, so not everyone can be found eligible, and we call ours the Caravan, and it is a shared ride service, and reservations have to be made the day ahead. It can be made up to a week out. We also provide care on demand for people who are found eligible for our Caravan, and it is provided through Userve, and it is like Uber and Lyft, and you can schedule same-day rides, but it does cost money. So it starts as a minimum $7 per ride. Our newest service that we provide is microtransit, and we call our microtransit system Link. And so that is on demand, same day travel in different service areas. So we have 6 different zones. So if you have to start and end in that zone. But as you can see, you can go many different places. You can get to many different things. And the nice thing about Link is that it is a GRTC vehicle and it is a GRTC driver. And so they have to be employed with GRTC. So that's how it's different than Uber or Lyft. And the only difference with our Link system is that in the Powhatan zone, you can schedule 24 hours in advance. So that is just due to the demand in Powhatan. So these are some pictures of our Link vehicles. In the bottom corner, the Link van, that's, you'll probably see those the majority of the time. All of the vehicles, actually every vehicle that GRTC has is wheelchair accessible. And then how you actually schedule a Link ride is you can download an app, and it's called GRTC on the go. And you can schedule a ride that way, or you can call our customer service line. Now, this is different than the Caravan customer service line. So this is the number on the screen is the traditional GRTC bus customer service line. And you can call and request a ride through there. But if you can see the picture, you can see how it says out of zone. So you can see the different zones on the app. So even if you might not want to use it right now, it is free to download, and you can kind of just play around and see where it goes, and if that might be beneficial for you in the future. And the point of Link is to connect to our fixed route bus stops. So this is a map of our Sandston zone, and that's like outlined in the purple area. And then the green line is one of our fixed route, or actually 3 of our fixed route bus lines. So as you can see, the point of Link is to connect you further into our system. So get you out from more of like the rural area into the city. And then this is a chaotic map of our service area. We go all the way into, out Short Pump into Goochland, where Sheltering Arms is, all the way up Route 1 towards Virginia Center Commons, all the way to the airport, all the way down south to Bright Point Community College in Chester, and out to Bon Air and like Regency Mall areas too. And then you might be wondering, I don't know how to use the fixed route bus. I've never done it before. So what I like to tell people when they're first starting out is you can just use Google Maps. So this is Google Maps on your desktop. As you can see at the top, there are it's like a little arrow, a car, a train, a walker, a bike, plane. So I highlighted the train bus icon. So that ties you right into the public transit system in Richmond. If you have public transit in your area, you probably could do the same thing. I have the old Northstar Career Academy up when it was on a bus line. But so as you can see, you could get to, different destinations, and lower in the map part, you can actually see the route that the bus would take. And so this is just expanded. Still, this is the desktop version. Because it does look different than the app. So you can see the different times it's traveling. You can change depart, what day you want to go, best route, less walking, wheelchair accessible. And then you can kind of expand all the different options so you can actually see the physical walking directions, and then how many bus stops you'll go through and how long it will take. So on your phone, like I said, this is going to look different. So on the left-hand side is Google Maps, and on the right-hand side is Apple Maps. And I chose these just because these are, what you find on your phone. And this is kind of what people are already used to. So maybe they're not driving, but you've seen someone use Google Maps driving, or maybe taking the bus, or just walking directions. But as you can kind of see, the way it shows up is a little different with Apple and Google. So just know that there is a little difference, but the information is all the same. And one thing I do say, Apple versus Google actually will give you, it's in beta form, but real time where your bus is without downloading another app. So if you can see on the right-hand side where it says 217, and it's kind of in like an orangey yellow, and it says it's early. So what Google does is it takes the bus schedule, so you never have to read a bus schedule, and it then actually tracks where the bus is. We don't have these on all of our buses at the moment, and I don't know what the software or algorithm is for that, but But yeah, it's getting to be on more of our buses. So you would just need one, Google Maps to tell you where the bus is currently and ties into the bus schedule. On the left-hand side of your screen is a picture of one of our bus schedules. So if you ever did want to learn how to use that, I can be happy to teach you. It did take me a while to learn how to use a bus schedule, so that's why I always tend towards technology, but it is still there and they're still correct, so I can definitely help with that. We also have a GRTC app. Not everyone can find it in the App Store, so it makes me think that it's going away. And we are also, if you've ever used the transit app in like a different city before, we have provided free full service of the transit app for Richmond. So if you download the transit app, you can play around with that and you get access to all of the goodies that come with that app for free. So this is a bus stop poll. So you've looked at Google, you've looked at Apple, you're like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing. This is what you would be looking for if you were writing one of our fixed route buses. I call them the purple and silver buses because that's what they are colored. So this would be a pole on a sidewalk, on the side of the road. At the top, you all have the circle bus icon. On the flag, you'll see stop number. So when you do put it into Google, it will give you a stop number. We label our stops based on street names, but if you have one stop on one side of the street and a stop on the other side of the street, that might be confusing. So that's why they also have stop numbers, because that's going to be unique to that specific bus stop pole. That is our website and also customer service number that you can call. And below that, it will tell you which buses stop there. So as you can see, this one, the 19 stops there, and it says West Broad Street. So you know that that's kind of where the bus is going if you don't know anything else. And then also for, especially with the weather recently, that blue snowflake, that means that bus stop will still be serviced if we go on snow routes. So sometimes buses can't get into neighborhoods, can't get into tighter streets. So we have to kind of cut that out when the snow and ice get that bad. And then, so if you see a little snowflake, you know that that bus stop will still be accessible during inclement weather. And so this is a picture of one of our buses. As you can see on the front, you have a bicycle rack. We can fit up to 2 bicycles on each of our purple and silver buses. On the Pulse buses, the blue and green ones, you can fit up to 3. At the top, that is our route number. So that's what Google gave you. And so it says 18 and it's going towards the Henrico Government Center. And then if you were using a mobility device, as that ramp, all of our buses, I said, are wheelchair accessible, mobility device accessible. So you can have them deploy the ramp. Also, if you can't get up, and I know you might be able to walk, but if you needed a little extra help, you can always ask the driver to deploy the ramp to help you onto the bus as well. So inside our buses, you have seats in the front. There are 2 spots for mobility devices. So if those spots are taken, unfortunately, you can't. You would have to wait for the next bus for that. Our bus, like how you know what's going on with the bus, where the bus is going, what bus stops are coming up. On the right-hand side picture, that is a picture of our bus stop screen. So how you would read that, the green square is the bus you're on. So you're on bus 78 and you're at the bus stop Colorado and Eggleston. And then underneath are the ones that are upcoming. So the next bus stop would be Randolph and Winder, and then Lombardy and Winder. So you can kind of plan with that as well. So that's in the front of the bus where a mobility device would go. So the seats flip up. And then on all of our purple and silver buses, you do have to signal to get off the bus. So that you do have to pull a cord when you see your bus stop come up and to signal to the driver that you want to get off. Our Pulse buses are a little different. They are colored blue and green. And this is, instead of that bus stop pole, this is like a bus station where you would wait. So as you can see, brick and mortar, it's covered. There's seating at the top of the ceiling. That's kind of, it gives you real-time arrival of the buses, so you don't need your phone. Where that blue light is on the left-hand side, that's an actual 911 emergency call box. So if you needed help and assistance immediately, you'd press that button. And so this is the front of our bus. It can hold up to 3 bikes. And right now it only goes Willow Lawn to Rockets Landing. So the only difference you need to know is westbound versus eastbound. And then the black square is where the front door always stops. So if you want to get on the front door, you know to wait by the front where the black square is. And so after I explained all of that, what is travel training? So I actually teach people how to do all that in, manageable chunks. And so, as Holly was saying, if anyone glazed over that and you're like, oh no, I need to know what to do, you can always give me a call. But it is free for anyone 15 and older. And then there are some different types of travel training that I provide. One-on-one travel training is what I do most. So that's going to start with an in-person meeting, and it's usually at the person's home. Caregivers, case managers, anyone with the family, they're welcome. I ask a series of questions that I ask everybody, and then there is a liability waiver that needs to be signed. But in that meeting, that's when we set up what comes next. So if it's, I don't even know if I can walk to the bus stop. I don't know if it's safe enough. I don't know, my neighborhood might be too confusing. I don't know if I can get out there. That we can start with that, or it can just be, I know what I'm doing. I need you to teach me how to do the app. I need you to show me how to read a bus schedule. So really that in-person meeting starts it off. And then everything I'm talking about for travel training is free. Right now our buses are free. So that means everything you're doing is free. It is on a first come, first serve basis, and there's no time frame. So just we, sync our calendars together and figure out what time works for you and what time works for me. And then people always ask too, can I come, if you're the caregiver, you're like, can I come? And you also want to learn how the bus works. That's definitely an option as well. And so again, no time frame. Sometimes it takes people 30 trips with me to figure out one route, or sometimes it takes 2, but it can be, like I said, it's flexible and it can be whatever you need. And I've had people, I just I work with a young gentleman, and he just turned 30, and I've been working with him since his 21st birthday. So we've been hanging out together for a while. So just whenever something changes that he needs help with, or he hasn't ridden a route in a while, he just gives me a call. And then something, if you're using a personal mobility device, this is more for when our buses looked a lot different. We had a lot of different buses. Now our buses are pretty uniform, not many differences between them. So you can actually come to the bus yard and practice getting on and off the bus without, people staring at you and having to get on the bus in real time. And this is just for our care customers. And then some bus orientation training that I've done. It's usually groups, or like I said, seasoned riders, where I just need to help them familiarize them with our system. Also like school groups. So if your school's on a bus line, I've taken them out on CBI trips before. And then for people that don't know where to start, but they want to maybe start, or you're not in Richmond, pedestrian street skills, #1 skill. I would suggest practicing, practicing with construction, using a stoplight, not using a stoplight. If you are in Richmond, identifying our vehicles and identifying our operators by uniform, because that's someone is a safe adult and you can go to. We have some YouTube videos that you could watch. They are a little outdated, but the meat is still good of those videos. You can practice how much money you'd save by taking public transit. So it is free versus Uber or Lyft. And then if you don't have any public transit in your area, or you don't even know if you do, you can always check to see if you have a mobility manager in your area or a disability advisory board in your area that could kind of point you in the right direction of transportation options. So another section that we have was paratransit. And so we call ours care. And so these are our caravans. And so as you can see, if you're using the lift, they get on in the back, or there are some stairs in the front. This is the shared ride service. It is free, but you do have to call the day ahead, and you do have to be found eligible before use. And how you apply for the caravan: on our website, you go to services and then paratransit, and then you go to eligibility. And so the eligibility process is through a different company. I know Holly knows all about this, through 88 Ride, and they are based in California. So that's why the hours are a little funky on the East Coast. But so any questions you have with them, you would, you start there. Our eligibility coordinator, her information is below. Her name is Angela Allah. So, once you're found eligible, if you have any questions, you would give her a call. And then I mentioned that once you are found eligible for the caravan, this is how you book a ride with Care. And so for this, it has a different phone number than the typical GRTC customer service line. And for them, you do need to call a day ahead, up to a week out. You can leave a voicemail. It can be a lot. In the queue, I think they said they got 10,000 phone calls last month, so in January. So just keep that in mind. You can email. You can also use the same app that I said for Link. You can also download this, even if you don't want to use Link. You can download this for the caravan, and you can also make your reservations that way. And just down, so if you look at the middle picture, it says City of Richmond or GRTC Link. For the caravan, you want to make sure City of Richmond is clicked. So you see this map, and then that's how you know that you're making a reservation for the caravan. And so same questions that the caravan, that's on there. So the same questions that a customer service representative would ask you is going to be in the app. Where do you want to go? Do you want to arrive there by a certain time, or do you want to be picked up at a certain time? And then they'll give you a window to be ready. So then if you're found eligible for the caravan, you can use Care on Demand. So this is the thing that costs money. Out of all today, this is the only thing that costs money right now. And this is through a different company. So it's unfortunately a different number, a different app, but you can give them a call. It's through Userve, and you would need to know your caravan number, which you'd get in your packet. So you just have to have your packet first before you can use Care on Demand. And they, so the difference with them, besides costing just money, is that it is direct. So it is like Uber and Lyft. You can schedule, 30 days in advance. And then, so same day service, though, requires at least a 2-hour notice, I believe, maybe up to an hour. You can bring other people. So I know some people, that's how they split the cost. If I might be scheduling it, but my friend and I might be splitting the cost. You can also bring your service animal on, and you still, they still have mobility device accessible vehicles as well. You can travel anywhere in the service area, the care service area. You can favorite drivers. You can use the same drivers all the time, as long as they're not booked. And then so the pricing is, so again, you start at $7 up to 6 miles, and then it's $1.15 per mile after 6 miles. So it's not like Uber and Lyft for pricing. It's, there's no that like on demand ride, how it will increase or not. And then when you call User and you say, hey, I want to go from Willow Lawn to the airport, and they might say, oh, that's $20, or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. You don't have to be locked in. You can just say, nope, I don't want to do that, and they just won't book it. And then if they have given you a, excuse me, if they have given you a cost, so let's say it said $10 and then it actually turned out to be less than $10, you'll be charged the lesser, but they will never charge you more. So if there was a random detour, road closed, they had to go 5 miles out of the way, you won't be charged for that. All right. So
Kelsey,
that is it.
oh, I apologize that I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I did want to push in, though. We had a couple of questions that popped up into the chat.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance to field those questions. The first one is, my daughter does not have a physical disability. Can she still take Caravan to and from Northstar?
So that would be the eligibility process through the Caravan, through the company ADA ride. So she would have to apply, and anyone under the age 80 and older has to apply. So you do not necessarily have to have a physical disability. You know, I've seen people, I've never actually seen the application process because there is a doctor portion to it. But what people have told me, my daughter has Down syndrome. We applied. She was found eligible. I would say, as caregivers or parents, when you're filling this out, you and the doctor, how you want to apply for this is you want to think about the worst day. Because I know some doctors are like, oh yeah, when it's sunny and it's 65 degrees, they can walk 3 miles. But on certain days they cannot. So you want to think about the worst day, because that's what the Caravan's for. So just always, that's a little piece of advice for that.
And I would just pop in, having filled this form out with a number of our students. For most students who attend Northstar, they're going to qualify for the service. So there is this eligibility process. I would like to remind everybody, if they haven't sat in this meeting before, that if you are receiving DARS services through PREETs or through vocational rehabilitative services, you can always provide your doctor's information when you apply for eligibility. I will warn you, doctors don't tend to respond to the email. You kind of have to call them and bug them. Another option is you can put Carol Brown's name down if she has an open case with you. This is the only situation in which she can verify that a person has a disability under ADA to get that care card so that you can move forward with the services. But generally speaking, it does not have to be because of a physical disability. The other thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be for a disability that affects people all the time. So we've had students in the past who are very independent and they're holding jobs, but they have episodic times when managing themselves is harder. So a couple of times, these have even been students who have driver's licenses, but when they're going through a period of depression, or if life is causing anxiety, maybe that's not the time to be behind the wheel of a car. They can then access these services because they have this in their toolkit, right? So they have more options. Or it can be a great option if people aren't going to be drivers on their own. I'm a fan of people having a lot of solutions because, life has a way of throwing a lot of curveballs. The other thing is, we have a number of students who maybe will eventually get a driver's license, but that might be further down the road just because of maturity and money and all kinds of variables. Learning how to ride the bus can be a great way for them to become independent and have the self-confidence that comes with being able to navigate and engage socially in the community. So I'm a big fan. We've gotten wonderful feedback from families working with Kelsey. So she's an amazing resource to have out there. The cost piece. Did we hit that one yet? We had a question.
Yeah, there is a second question here.
Yeah.
The second question is it free for as long as they are receiving the training from you?
Great question. So all of our services, like bus services, are free. Travel training has always been free. So right now, that means everything is free. Our budget for the bus being free has reviewed every I guess, June, July, because that's when our fiscal year starts. So right now we say the bus is free through June 30th of this year, because our fiscal year starts July 1. So when we go to the board, our budget, we always include free fare, and then the board approves it or denies it. So far it's been approved every year since COVID started.
And that's a great thing to advocate for those of you who are connected with people like your boards of supervisors and so forth. If this is something that's important, those are the people to tell, hey, please, thank you for authorizing that. And please continue to do so if that's your position on this topic. I would also say sometimes we have families who come, say, we've got people from as far away as Charles City or an hour and a half away, and they say, well, I live in a rural area. How can I access services? I would encourage you to look at your county. They differ from county to county. I can tell you, like Hanover County has the Hanover Dash, King William has King William Dash, and I see now they're also linked into USERV. Kelsey, I did not ask you this question ahead of time, so I'm going to hit you. Is there some way that like Hanover Dash connects within the services that are within the Richmond area? Are there connections between those supported ride services?
So I know with so USERV is its own company. So the fact that USERV is, being kind of touted around to different companies, two different counties, that's just based on them, counties reaching out to USERV to use them. For us, and what I've always been told is that, it's a money issue with the crossing of the borders and the crossing of the county lines. And it really does take a big group to come together, for Hanover to say, sure, let's feed into this. And for Chesterfield to say, yes, let's do this. And Powhatan, Powhatan they really are using the link system, and they really enjoy it. And so now, because of their advocacy, Link did not start out as the whole Powhatan County, but now it is. So again, with advocacy and saying we want to use this, we need it, and especially like, hey, if you don't mind saying I have a disability, my son is like, hey, I have a disability, that gives a lot more weight than if I were to say, hey, I know this kid that has a disability and needs it. If it actually comes from the person and or the family, really means a lot.
I know that Ashland, the link in Ashland will come all the way. It's not just the town of Ashland, but the whole area of Ashland. So it comes down towards Sliding Hill Road. And I think I've heard that it actually comes to the Henrico Sports Park where the mall used to be.
So I still call that VCC. I still call
yes.
it.
And then you can take the bus from there. And then it looks like the Azalea link comes into Mechanicsville to Memorial Regional.
Yes. Yeah.
I
always get that hospital mixed up too. I always say Regional Memorial, but but yeah. So and so as Hanover saw, so we started with that Azalea zone with going into Mechanicsville just to the hospital area, but people wanted more, and guess what they got? They got more. so yeah, transportation's hard. And I wish there was I had a better answer. But I know it's all about the entities working together. And, but yeah, if you listen to the people and they complain, it throws a lot of weight in a good way.
It's such a valuable resource. So often transportation is kind of the barrier that our students face. They get ready, they get out there, they get a job, but then how are they going to get back and forth? Another way that families have navigated it in the past, especially those folks who live outside of this service area, is, a lot of times when our students start working, they might have 2 or 3 4-hour shifts a week, right? And so mom or dad might bring them to like a library that's within in the service zone, and the person can hang out there, be safe, be entertained, be engaged in the community, and then they can take the bus to work and then take the bus back, and they can, flex their schedule and be more engaged that way. So there's just so many options. And I just encourage people to think bigger than just their home address. There's a lot of things that can come out of this opportunity in terms of independent living and just access to the community in general. So thank you so much. We have a great question because I could also use this review. Can you please explain the link service again and how that works? And I'm gonna hopefully not misinterpret this question to differentiate between the bus and link.
Yeah, I can do it all. Okay.
Yeah, great.
So fixed route bus, city bus, big bus, that's what you got. And then you have link. So link is going to be like a van, like the caravan, but there's no eligibility process and it's free. And it is with a zone. So the caravan zone is basically where the buses go, like the city buses. Link is going to be more rural. I mean, I say rural, maybe suburban is a better term. And the point of link is to get you to a city fixed route bus. So then you can access more. So links comes to your door just like the caravan. It is kind of like a curb to curb service as well for that, as long as you're in the service area. But the point of link is, I guess really not the point. It's free. It's going to be in a more suburban rural area, and it's same day service versus the caravan, and only in the service area, only in their specific service area. So if you want to know those specific service areas or you have a specific address in mind, download the app, even if you don't want to use it, and you can plug in the different addresses and you can see if one of, what you're looking for is in one of the link zones. That, to me, that's the easiest part. We have maps on our website, but they don't have, it's not as specific as the app is.
Another question we get a lot is how safe is it? And you speak to that better than I do. I quote you sometimes, but safety, of course, is always going to be a concern for everyone. Can you speak a little bit about the different services and how they monitor for safety?
Yeah, so all of our vehicles have audio and visual recording. All of our drivers have emergency buttons that they push. So that includes link, that includes the caravan. So you have that. On our city buses, the bus stops. I mean, some people, if it is like a more, I don't want to say like rough neighborhood, people want more bus stops in that area because that means nothing happens at the bus stops because they're always being recorded. I've heard, people in the public say that before. We have implemented new people in our safety department. So we have public security officers who do carry guns. And then we also have, and I guess they're public safety like assistants. They do not carry guns, they just ride the buses. So because they are our people, they can react to situations that are happening on the buses or outside a bus stop a lot quicker than maybe the police can. They can be deployed because that is their job. So we do have those people that you might see them riding around. You might see, big GRTC, vest on, sitting on the inside of the bus, and they're just there to, keep the peace.
And my understanding is they're trained in how to
they're trained in de-escalation. Yep.
Right.
And the gun is the last resort. I know that might be terrifying, but yes, they are trained. And then I know the training, because this is new within the past year. So how we're using them is changing with how the public needs them. So it's not a one size fits all. We have them for this specific thing. It's like, nope, they can kind of just move and go with the flow. On a personal level, I've been on all the buses. I've been on buses where things maybe have not gone so well. The drivers are amazing. Nothing bad has ever, been escalated. I also take the bus at night when I, went to a concert and I don't want to drive or park, and take the bus to where I parked my car that was cheaper or a little farther down. So I'm out there.
Right. And I think that that's helpful too, because a lot of our folks who might be trying this for the first time, if they're in an area and suddenly they don't recognize where they are, that could be bring a lot of big feelings on. And so to
Mhm.
know that there's a lot of people in a recognizable vest that they could approach and ask for help or clarification, you know, people aren't just out there completely
Mhm.
on their own.
Yeah.
The way, if you don't ride buses all the time, sometimes that might be how you envision it. So it's
Mhm.
important to realize how many layers there are
Mhm.
out there and what a valuable service it is. So thank you.
Mhm.
Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think we're okay to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again for being here tonight, everyone. I did want to remind the participants that the presentations and other resources will be sent to you, and they'll also be available on our Family Education Night webpage sometime later this week so that you can reference those and all the wonderful information that we talked about tonight. For those of you who are joining us live, you're welcome to stay on after we stop the recording and turn your cameras on to ask either Kelsey or Michele some additional questions. Of course, we look forward to seeing you next month on March 10th for the Family Education Night when the topic will be job searches and supports. That evening, we will cover both job searching and employment service organizations. Thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.